What's up guys, Miss Bess here, back with another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes commentary video. I'm going to make a video today that's a little long overdue. There have been a lot of changes to the game since my last Galactic War videos about 2 months ago. So I wanted to kind of touch on tactics, techniques that you can use, farming, characters to use, and my personal strategies for doing Galactic Wars. So you'll see that I swapped out my healer for another DPS at the start of this Galactic War. That's a tactic I use on both of my accounts, this being my second account. I focus on trying to throw in heavy DPS for the first 4, 5, possibly even 6 nodes in my Galactic Wars. Usually those battles are going to be the easiest ones, so a healer isn't always necessary, especially when you have a character like IG-88, who you saw right there, can do massive amounts of damage to the enemy team and get healed for all of that damage that he's doing. He doesn't really need a healer, even though he's one of the weakest health-wise on my Galactic War team. He gets tons of health back when he attacks, as compared to other characters. Now, the other thing that I have on this account that I don't have on my other account is a good leader that gives a good DPS synergy for my other DPS characters. You notice that I'm using HK47 on this team as my leader. The reason I'm using HK47 is because he gives that great synergy to my IG-88 and 86, increasing their critical strike chance incredibly. Now, HK47 himself doesn't necessarily do a lot of damage, but as you've seen in this gameplay, his AoE has a ton of debuffs associated with it. And those debuffs work extremely well with IG-88's unique ability. His unique passive increases his critical strike damage and also increases the damage that he does by 20% for each enemy with a debuff. So even though some people might say, oh, well, why do you have HK47 in there if you're focusing on trying to do more damage? Well, because he does help me do more damage. So the goal here isn't necessarily to just put all of my highest damage characters into the game to take down my teams as fast as possible. The goal is also to have good synergy between those teams so that I can get as far into the Galactic War with a DPS exclusive team as possible. Now you'll notice here that my IG-88 has dropped below 50% health. My goal here was to only retreat if IG-88 dropped into the red. My tactic is to keep my high DPS team together as long as possible before swapping in a healer. So for this next battle, I went ahead and swapped out my Geonosian Soldier for Luminara. I wanted to keep my droids together with HK47 as long as possible, possibly running them all the way through to the end of the Galactic War. So I swapped out my Geonosian Soldier in case I needed to replace a DPS that fell later. The reason I use Luminara in this capacity in Galactic War is because she is a high damage healer. She does have very good healing abilities. And you'll notice that my IG-88 died, so I went ahead and retreated, went right back into the battle. I didn't change anything about my lineup, and I didn't change anything about my attack sequence up to the point where I instead healed with Luminara here instead of using her attack. I then proceeded to complete the battle without any losses, which made a difference. So if you're doing Galactic War and you find yourself up against a battle that you just can't get over, you just can't beat this particular battle, one of the first tactics I use is same team, different attack strategy. Instead of attacking Darth Sidious first or Phasma first, I'll choose to attack one of the healers first or something along those lines. Sometimes that will yield completely different results, which instead allow you to finish the battle without losing a single character, which makes a huge difference. That's my first approach. My second approach is to go ahead and swap out one of the characters that may have possibly, I thought, given me an advantage, but was constantly dying. So, for instance, in these battles, say IG-88 kept dying, just kept dying. Maybe I would swap out IG-88 for just this one battle for Geonosian Soldier, who is a little bit more survivable. He has higher health pool and is able to survive a little bit longer than IG-88. If that didn't work, and I still kept having problems, kept losing one or two characters, I would just retreat and then possibly look at the idea of throwing in a B team, or what some people call a suicide squad, to go in and soak up some of the cooldowns of the other team and possibly take out one or two of the characters before they die. That tactic has worked out incredibly well for me in the past on my main account, where I have a little bit more depth of roster, where I can actually throw in a decent B squad and actually have a good chance of actually taking out more than just a little bit of health on one character. So if you've exhausted all of those options and you still are having trouble getting through a particular battle, the next option you might just have to accept is moving on without that character that you lost. You might just have to accept your losses and move on. Unfortunately, what that may mean is you're going to lose a critical character to your team. And this is where the concept of depth of roster comes into play in Galactic War. For the longest time, I was unable to clear Galactic Wars on this account. So what I ended up having to do was divert some of my resources from my arena squad, which in turn also helped keep my Galactic War easy. I'll cover that in a little bit. But I was able to redirect resources from my arena squad and focus on leveling up some of the characters that I used exclusively for Galactic War. Characters like Rey, Luminara, and Barasafi. I have videos on Luminara and Barasafi available on my channel. You can go and find those elsewhere. But the biggest advantages to having a depth of roster is being able to keep moving on when you do lose a character. For me, that was farming Rey and Barasafi. For you, say you use most of the characters that are easily farmed, like Phasma or Luminara, in your arena squad, and you can't necessarily focus on leveling them up to help you, so you have to go out and farm characters like the Resistance Pilot, who is a good high damage attacker with a decent amount of survivability in Galactic War. Other characters who can help you substantially with Galactic War are Asajj Ventress, I have a video on her that I just released, and Qui-Gon Jinn. The reason both of those characters are extremely useful in Galactic War is because they can remove buffs, which includes taunts. Asajj heals herself when she removes the buffs, and she removes buffs off of the entire team, and Qui-Gon Jinn can remove buffs off of a single target, but also gives the entire squad offense up for at least 2 turns. So they each have their application in Galactic War, specifically removing taunts. I know that one of the biggest difficulties I had early on in Galactic War is that I don't have a character who could remove taunts. Yes, I have Teebo, but Teebo was pretty much farmed exclusively for the tank challenge, and I didn't really level him up significantly until recently. Right now, he is 6 stars on this account, and gear 8, I believe, but I haven't really focused on using him in Galactic War. Plus, as you just saw, I cleared an entire Galactic War halfway with just DPS, and the other half only subbing in Luminara without even a second healer, or even using Barasafi as my lead. One of the biggest contributing factors to making that possible was keeping my arena squad low power. You see that my entire arena team is level 73, and here I am taking on a team of 77 and 78s. Unfortunately, my AG-88 died fairly quickly, and I was a little worried about beating this arena squad, but my team is pretty solid. Every character is at least 6 stars. My Poggle and Royal Guard are both 6 stars, but obviously, as is evidenced by my progression through this arena squad, 6 stars is good enough. I don't need to take Poggle, even though I have the shards, to 7 stars to progress any further in my arena ranking. My goal is to stay under 200 in the arena rankings. The reason for that? I want to get 800 arena points every day. Under 200, you're getting 600 from the daily rewards, and I'm getting 200 from my daily achievements. So that gives me enough arena points to get 2 shard packs every day, and that's my goal. So real quick here, I wanted to cover some of the characters that I think are the most important to completing Galactic War for newer players. First, Barasafi. I mention her a lot, I preach the importance and the benefits of farming Barasafi early and quickly so that you can get your Galactic Wars done consistently. She makes a great healer. She makes a great leader. Her basic attack has the ability to heal the entire squad, and she does have a lot of health, so she can kind of soak up a lot of the damage. The second character is Rey. She's a little bit harder to farm, but she does incredible damage and is incredibly useful. The other character that I think people should be farming is Royal Guard. He is one of the best tanks, if not arguably the best tank in the game right now. His auto taunt is priceless. When you have a low health, high damage attacker like IG-88, who tends to drop below 50% health, but also has the ability to heal himself, Asajj Ventress also falls into this category, you have the Royal Guard getting his auto taunt in action very often. His health pool is also one of the highest of any tank in the game. His damage is a little lackluster, but he does have a very high stun rate. So he makes a very good utility tank for you to use in your Galactic War. That about sums up my Galactic War strategies for you guys. I want to apologize a little bit for the audio. It's raining pretty hard here. I live in the Midwest and we're getting a lot of storms. If you haven't seen my previous video, it was my roster review of Asajj Ventress. You can click the annotation on screen to be taken to that video. The rain is getting a little bit heavy, so I gotta cut it, guys. As always, thanks for watching. Like, favorite, subscribe, and I'll catch you later.